Hello, Star Wars fans. Hey, there's just 142 days until Christmas 2021. Oh, thank you so much for being here. We're doing a later stream tonight. We've got some guests that we're going to bring in just a moment. And I want to acknowledge, hey, Mark's over there in the UK. It's 11 p.m. over there. Oh, and we've got some West Coast folks with us. It's a bit earlier. We've got a lot of our usuals are here in the chat. I'm watching for one person to show up. We'll see. We'll see if Star Wars Meg's. She's been a regular in our live streams. We'll see if she shows up because she called me out on something the other night, and I want to have a little bit of fun with that. So without any more ado, let's go ahead and bring in the guests. We're going to talk about Thrawn tonight. And the reason is that, hey, there's Meg. Okay, so I've got to come clean. Meg called me out on Twitter. And it's been a family secret for generations. And she tagged me in a tweet the other night, and I had to fess up that I am indeed related to Yoda. It's one of these things. Santa has been related to Yoda. It's in the Star Wars universe. You can find it. And we don't talk about family here, and of course our nephew Grogu, that's all tightly held family secret. I can't come out any further than that. Meg already forced me to come out this far, and so there you have it, everybody. So thank you so much. Yeah, I knew it. I know you called me out, Meg, so I had to fess up to it in the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. So we're going to talk about Thrawn tonight, and the reason is that last week there was an announcement about Lars Mikkelsen playing Thrawn in live action. And the question then comes, for those who have been engaged with Thrawn in some of the other materials, we've seen Thrawn in Rebels. And then many people are familiar with Thrawn from the original Heir to the Empire novels, and then from the comics, and more recently in the new novels that have come out, Ascendancy Novels and other Thrawn novels that Timothy Zahn has released. And there's slight distinctions between the Thrawns we see in each of those things. So we want to talk about those distinctions. We want to talk to see if there's a natural continuation of Thrawn from where we see him in his academy days all the way through Rebels, all the way into Heir. Is it the same Thrawn? Is there a different Thrawn? What Thrawn might Lars bring to film? And so we want to talk about all of those things. So let me bring in our guests, and we'll introduce everybody. First, we have Trev. Trev, thanks so much. My favorite guy that we talked to about Thrawn and to disagree.
There you go. You know what, though? I would have said you were related to yogurt. I think you got the choice, Santa.
Merchandising.
Well, Meg found it on, and she tweeted, Santa, you have some explaining to do. So I had to come out and make it public. So there you have that. And then we've got Coop from Certified Gumbo. Coop, thanks for being here. Coop and I have talked a lot about Thrawn from the more recent novels in our Discord. And thanks for coming on tonight.
Hey, thank you for having me. Hey, you know what? The more you know, every time I come onto a stream or jump in the Discord with you, I learn something new about you.
Well, it was a tightly held secret, but Meg outed me. So
hey,
what can I do?
You got the JJ mystery box going on over there. Just keeps the gift that keeps on giving.
That's true. And then we have Levi from All New Nerds, the walking encyclopedia of Star Wars knowledge. I don't know how you do it, but if you have any Star Wars trivia, Levi can just pull it out.
Thank you for the plug. I like how it was like you were trying to sell a used car with the Thrawns. You're like, we got this kind of Thrawn and this kind of Thrawn. Which Thrawn you want? It's like, is there any connect? What can I do for you? This Thrawn's got an air freshener. It's like,
oh, it's so good. It's so good. And I saw another friend of the channel out here. We got MakingStarWars.net. Jason, thank you for joining us in the chat tonight. So guys, I want to kind of introduce folks to all the different Thrawn kind of character that we've seen over the years, and we can take this two ways. We can start with the newer novels and go through, or we can do it sort of in the way that Thrawn was presented to us. And I'm more apt to go the second. Thrawn originally, most people got to know Thrawn through Heir to the Empire, right? That's where we get. How would you characterize Thrawn as a character from those novels? What were his characteristics?
I would say, if I can go first, cerebral and ruthless.
Yeah.
So ruthless in what way?
So like he'll if he goes on, like if he wants to do something, it'll get done. Like, and he's not going to stop he's not going to let anything distract him. He's not going to let, and he'll be brutal in some ways regarding that. The things that he does, like he can come across as brutal. He does things that are brutal.
Yeah, he's
You know
very
what I mean?
machine-like. He's very robotic with his executions of plans and schemes.
And people.
And people, for
In
sure.
Heir to the
Definitely
Empire.
people.
People get
But at the same time, cerebral, right? Like he's
Rebels, yes, rebels beware.
Yeah. I mean, I was more even referring to his own, like there's a scene in Heir to the Empire where he has Rook cut off the head of one of his like midshipmen, and that's not something Thrawn and canon would do, I don't think. And I was going to say, either way we take this, we're going to get whiplash, because these are, in my opinion, very different characters. And in terms of Heir to the Empire, I point to one specific scene where it's Pelion and Thrawn talking, and Pelion is looking at this like orb, and Thrawn has this little orb statue because he's like, it's this one time that I couldn't figure out something about the species from their art. And Pelion's like, that's interesting. Maybe it'll prove useful. And Thrawn goes, no, I destroyed their whole planet. And I was like, okay, that's a very different Thrawn. I was like, this is a different Thrawn, guys. Yeah.
And I wanted to let people know, we all know Star Wars Meg from her channel and those fantastic videos she puts out every day. But when we've got to see another side of her in our chat. She's always been here for our live streams. She's most of them, and she is a queen of the dad jokes. She throws these things out all the time. So if you just want entertainment, you can ignore the four of us. Watch the chat, and Meg will keep you entertained. There's a perfect dad joke. He and Ezra got Thrawn into space. That's Meg. Man. Oh man! Just brace yourselves.
Just for that, Meg. I'm not watching tomorrow's video. I won't respond in the Bad Batch poll. Every week I'm like, oh look, a nice little poll. Not doing it. Not for that.
Oh, I have to do my predictions for the episode.
You do.
Mine.
Oh shoot!
Now that I remind. Oh,
yeah,
man.
the link to the predictions is in the description here. So we've talked a little bit about Heir to the Empire, Thrawn, ruthless. Some of the terms that have been used: robotic, very cerebral. Anything else you would add to the Heir to the Empire, Thrawn, that most people got to know originally?
I think the big thing for me is that his loyalty to the Empire is another key thing.
Sorry.
I know. I know she's distracting.
strategic too, right? Like super strategic. He recognizes that he appreciates. Obviously, everybody knows this characteristic of Thrawn. It passes through on the Disney thing too, that he appreciates the art.
The art is the biggest thing.
Yeah, that he appreciates the art of a species, and he's very appreciative, and he's very strategic, and he's very he's saying that he can come. He's very respectful in his manner, even though he is ruthless and everything else, and he does he's very command original, but he's also respectful in his tone. He has not necessarily.
He's still evil though. Thrawn trilogy Thrawn is still very much a villain, whereas new canon Thrawn is much more confusing, and we'll get into that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up about the
neutral,
art, because the art has been there throughout, and it's important that we anchor at least the Heir to the Empire Thrawn with that characteristic as well. He's very cerebral in the art. I think those are things that we see throughout, but as far as the very robotic and ruthless part, That's very, very different, as Levi has kind of kind of alluded to. Now, next I think would come, and Trev shared with us in Discord prior to coming in our private Discord chat as we were preparing tonight. There's a comic series. There's a comic run. What year was that from, Trev?
2018. 17, 18.
Yeah. The book came out in whatever. It's the adaptation of the first new Thrawn novel comic.
Yeah.
Okay, so we should probably go to Rebels Thrawn next, and then go to the comic, right? Just to take them in order. Rebels,
in terms of appearance, you're right. Yeah.
In terms of appearance, as people would maybe get to know them. So Rebels Thrawn, very similar in many ways to the Heir to the Empire Thrawn. Maybe dial back on the Ruthless a little bit, but I went back through Rebels.
I would say a lot of it.
A lot of it.
Yeah, a lot of it, but at the same time, Thrawn was still willing to blow up like all of Lothal to get to Ezra, and but there are moments where it's different. Like there's
I wanted to kind of touch on. I went through Rebels, all the episodes that Thrawn appears in, and there's a list. He's in seasons 3 and 4 of Rebels, and the very first entrance of Thrawn in episode 1 of season 3, they talk about how they just came off of a mission where the civilian casualties outnumbered the combatants. So
it's a technicality, though, Santa. I hate to be that guy. I can tell. I think Coop wants to say the same thing. That is explained in the novel. That technically, that wasn't his fault. That was Price did that, not him.
Well, it goes further. So we'll get there. I promise, Levi. I promise.
All right,
we will get there. They introduce him that way, and then later he does get to a point in. Let me get to it. 0 Hour, Part 1. It's episode 21 of season 3. He specifically says there will be no surrender. Right there, that offer is off of the table, and then in episode 22, he does offer the surrender option, but in episode 21, no surrender option. There's no possibility presented to the combatants. So again, kind of ruthless to not offer that when you get to compare to where we're headed, right?
Well, yeah, but again, like Coop was saying, it's Rebels is aimed at more the books weren't necessarily aimed at kids. Even though saying that, I was 11 and 12 when I read them. But it's more. He's just toned. He's dialed back 40% maybe. It's 25 to 40%.
I would say it's the brutality that is dialed back, and he's still ruthless in his execution of his plans, but. And his cunning is still there, in the way he devises a plan, the way he talks through, and all his ideology and his philosophy and his military mind is still there, but it's not as he's not as brutal as he is in the original trilogy.
Honestly, I think it's that the art
or the Heir to the Empire trilogy,
his love of art is turned up as well, because there's that moment. There's that moment where. I think it's List, the officer List, or he's just with an Imperial officer when he's at on Ryloth, and he insults the Kalikori, and he kind of goes hard on the guy, but then he collects himself, and it's not everyone appreciates art like I do, but in Legends, or rather in that Heir to the Empire trilogy, I don't think Thrawn would have cared that much about the art. He doesn't act. I don't think that Thrawn really. He learns from it, and he uses it as a tool, but I don't think he actually cares for it. Whereas
I sent a picture, last week about how Thrawn appreciates art. In the it's from the it's from the comic adaptation of Heir to the Empire, but
he appreciates it, but I don't think he's a huge collector like he is in canon.
I wouldn't say he's a collector.
They kind of made him like the collector in Marvel almost.
Yeah, because in his office, you see I think you can see Gree's helmet, and he has all the he has these murals, and he collects like Sabine's artwork, and not to my recollection, he doesn't really do that in Legends. He uses it, but he doesn't like collect it and cherish it.
It's just intel, right? Like that's how he treats it in it's just more information. It's another angle that he can use in order to get a step up on his opponent. It's not they almost make it like it's the art is what he uses to devise his strategy. It's almost implied that way in canon, where it's not that, it's just a tool. It's just another resource that he has at his disposal.
Yeah, I'm trying not to get ahead of myself.
It is hard.
It's tough. I'm trying to keep focused here with Rebels, and I think Levi was right about saying, like, he did point out the artwork when they were on Lothal. It was a big deal, and he was able to deduce from the artwork and then Hera's attachment to the family.
Calicori.
That
doesn't he imply that he could have beat Cam too or whatever?
Yeah,
I don't remember. I think he implies that like if I was there, I would. I haven't seen those episodes in a while, but like.
No, well, Cham. See, I think he does. I think Cham says that. Cham confesses that he beats him. Because he said at first they were sloppy, and then he said within the next time they had the next attack, they were able to counter them and they were defeated like heavily, and they had to surrender or fall or retreat or something to that effect. But he did get the best of Cham. So I do want to say too, also, and since we're on Rebels, one thing that they do, I feel, portray accurately is his use of the fleets and his use of ships, like, and his understanding of how to use each of the Imperial ships to the best of their ability. And like the formation scene when they what episode was that when they assault the Rebel base as they're going to?
It's what Santa was talking about. It's the end of season 3 when. Constantine breaks off with the interdictor, and he's like, Thrawn gets big mad
because
and saying that with the interdictor, that's stuff straight out of Heir to the Empire.
It's straight out of
that's strategy shown straight out of Heir to the Empire.
Yeah, which I definitely appreciate, because I felt like Heir to the Empire added some real cool dimensionality to warfare within the Star Wars universe. And through Thrawn's expertise and how he used the ships, and like, that's the way he attacked and the way he was able to ambush and use the interdictors as basically.
Well, I think Thrawn invented those for those books, right? Like those didn't exist prior to.
No.
Yeah,
because like he would have interdictors camped out like hyperspace lanes and would pull rebel ships out and ambush them. Like
but Timothy Zahn invented them. Yeah, they weren't part of canon.
No,
point.
No. And it's cool to see that in Rebels they brought the interdictors in, and as well as Thrawn, because that is a key part to his strategy.
And attacking shipyards, using them to attack shipyards so they could, like, no one could really escape. Using them to attack Coruscant. That's not Rebels, though. That's again the books, but that's
right. So I wanted to go to this question that Chandler asked. Do you think the Katana fleet will be adapted?
I think a Lost Fleet will be adapted for sure, but like that's what I felt like they were using in
Rise of Skywalker.
In Rise of Skywalker, that was a version of the Katana fleet.
Yeah, no, I don't think so, because Rise of Skywalker was already like a sort of cocktail of mostly Dark Empire with a little Thrawn trilogy sprinkled in, and I think it'd be kind of redundant to do.
It's because it was already like a Lost Fleet used in Rise of Skywalker. Yeah. I agree with Levi that it's like it's tough for them to find like a dark force.
However, I don't think it'll be lost. Sorry, Coop.
I was gonna say I think there's a version. There's a way that they can do it. Yes,
I think we saw it.
A way they can do it.
I think we saw it being made in Mandalorian. I think Morgan Elsbeth working on Thrawn's fleet.
That's exactly where I was going, but I'm like, we're jumping out of control.
We're mind melding here. I know what you're saying. I know.
Do you think that's just going to be some kind of backup fleet he uses? Like, but because the Dark Force.
I have a theory on that, and I hope we can get there. I hope we can get there. But I got theories on that.
Let's finish our introductions to Thrawn, the different versions of Thrawn.
Because we're hopping.
We're hopping everywhere.
We're hopping.
It's hard not to do, and I understand. I appreciate it, but so so everybody has a general idea of the Thrawn in Rebels, a scaled down version of Heir to the Empire,
Yes,
but many of the same sort of qualities, being cerebral, artwork, maybe artwork's dialed in differently than it was in Heir. Those two things are still present in Thrawn, and then his amount of absolute.
Chat talking about? Sorry. I'm sorry. I just saw
Yeah, the
Snoop
chat is
Dogg as
going
Hondo,
wild.
and I was like, what?
Man.
Well,
Awesome.
just because I love her so much, I think we can blame it on Meg.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know,
definitely.
she had to go back up here and bring up Holdo. So
Oh man,
That's fair. She
you
isn't
know
the-
what? You know what's crazy about that Hondo comment? It's not that crazy.
No, right?
It's
That's what I
really
was
not that crazy.
Well,
Like
it
it
wouldn't
sounds
be-
crazy, right? And then you start to think about it, and you're like, wait a second.
But then they'd have to show Leia, right? They'd have to show Leia too, though. They'd have to do a de-aged. If they're doing a de-aged Luke, are they doing it because are they going to do a de-aged Leia, or are they going to have Holdo?
Look,
Well,
we're so off topic. We're so off topic right
again,
now.
let's pull back. So
Oh my God,
again,
Star Wars Meg. Jeez.
she's
That's a hot take.
she's.
We gotta focus.
You guys need to be here for our live watch parties Friday mornings because she's in there doing it, giving us these golden gems all the time. She's the one that gave us elves with benefits. So let that sink in.
Is that what you should rename the snowtroopers to that? Elf with benefits.
elves with benefits? That came from Meg. So Rebels. Now we can go to the comic book version. I think that Trev would.
Again, I was just saying the comic book version, and like Levi said, is an adaptation of the first Thrawn novel. But it's just, I was just saying, I was rereading that. I wasn't rereading the novel. I was just saying.
I wish they would did the whole trilogy too. Just
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I wish.
Yeah, me
I
too.
wish. I would. Love
I wish
that.
more books got comic book adaptations.
Yeah. Again, like it'd be great if they did a lot of the Star Wars novels that people haven't read. Just in doing a comic book form, just to.
I would love them to do
visual
the.
medium too, right? So.
I would love them to do Light of the Jedi in a comic book.
I was just about to
adaptation.
say I would love to see Rise.
But anyways, I know.
Yeah, focus. We gotta focus.
I was saying prior to this, that Thrawn comes across very much like Ender, like in Ender's game. He comes across as being like very like young, smart, and willing to like stand up to bullies, stand up to like help someone who's lesser than him, and and do teamwork to beat up like just, and that's an academy and in an education kind of system there.
That moment in the academy where he's with what I forget the cadet
Eli
Eli Vanto.
Vanto.
Yeah, and they get ambushed out in the courtyard in the dark, and he's describing like the whole battle, and then at the end of it, he tells them like, "Oh, don't reprimand them. Send them to what was the
I think he said
the academy, the Sky Strike Academy.
Yeah, Sky Strike.
Sky Strike Academy, because they would make great TIE fighter pilots. I'm like,
and again,
what? That was a great Thrawn moment.
And that's a strategic move, and that's also something that kind of Ender would have done. Like it's very similar to that. If you've seen the movie, if you read Ender's Game, it's a similar take on Thrawn. And at that point, and that's kind of the first canon introduction, the Disney canon introduction of Thrawn.
Yeah, so let's go into those novels. So the first set, the Ascendancy, right? Those are the first ones, or that's
no.
The first, the Ascendancy ones
chronologically
are the new,
first, but new.
Right.
It's
the
confusing.
new ones
It's very
are
confusing.
Thrawn. It starts with just Thrawn, and then there's what's the name of the other two?
Thrawn alliances.
Alliances and then treason.
Yeah, alliances and treason.
Sorry.
So we've got Thrawn alliances, and Thrawn treason. They take place again for folks that maybe not have read them. They take place just before Thrawn comes into what's known as lesser space, right? So, and they pick up where he first comes in. And you see him in the comic. He's long haired and he looks a bit wild and things. But we see him partnered with Vader pretty soon, and he and there's bits of flashback with him and Anakin and him and Vader, and he's figuring out that Vader is Anakin. That's why the flashbacks are there. There's ties into Batuu, where they go there for on a mission to get Padme, and they end up going there on a mission again later. So Thrawn is remembering these two events and correlating them, and figures he is all but certain that Vader is Anakin. He's deduced that. The Thrawn that we see in that set of novels, again, the idea is it happens before A New Hope. He and Vader
between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope.
Yeah, and they're on a mission together from the Emperor. And here you see Thrawn again, very cerebral, extremely. He's able to figure things out, and this is where I first really made a really strong connection to Sherlock Holmes, because reading those novels, you're reading like space Sherlock Holmes.
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt that Eli is Watson. He has a sidekick.
And people talk a lot about Ezra being space Aladdin, right? But here you get space Sherlock Holmes, and it is evident in those novels that Timothy Zahn is leaning into it, and those novels really pull out those aspects of him. Extremely cerebral. He's able to deduce things that most people don't pick up, and he also picks up on minutia that most people overlook, right? So it reads to me like a parallel to Sherlock Holmes. What would you all say?
I think
I would say, go ahead.
Very accurate. I mean, we've talked about this offline, but it's like that. I'd said, Sherlock. He's like a cross between Sherlock, Spock, and Picard, and then that's Thrawn in canon.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. I never thought of the Picard.
I was going to say it's no mistake that they cast Lars Mikkelsen as Thrawn right after, and it's right after he played Charles Augustus Magnuson in season 3 of Sherlock, which was Sherlock's nemesis, like a nemesis that was a cerebral equal to Sherlock, right? And like he's invented the Mind Palace and all that kind of stuff, and it's like it's no accident that they cast him as Thrawn.
The guys got the acting chops. We'll get into that though. I imagine
that's a very salient point there, Trev, because the question of the night, and we'll get back to it, is what version of Thrawn will we get from Lars? Right?
Slot machine. Which one will it be?
Which one will it be?
Different Thrawn faces will line up.
Yeah.
This Thrawn.
Well, I will say that I can't get Lars Mikkelsen's voice out of my head now when I read Thrawn. I hear his voice now.
Well, the audiobooks are phenomenal.
Yes. I forgot. I'm not an audiobook person.
But is Lars Mikkelsen doing the audiobooks?
No, Coop's got all the books laying there. He's got them right there.
I've got them. Actually, I've got them they're in storage. I don't have them out. Unfortunately, middle of a move.
So, anything else to add about that version of Thrawn that we see?
I think. Well, I wanted to address what Gray said. Hello, Gray. Good to see you. She's wondering how is Thrawn like Picard, and I think he's a good captain. He's in the canon version. He's he really cares about his bridge crew, especially in Treason. Him and Commodore Farrow have a really good relationship, and he ends up giving her her own command at the end of it.
And whereas in Heir to the Empire, he kills a guy just like Vader does.
Yeah,
because and he tells the guy that teaches him, "You got to teach the next guy way better."
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I go back to Rebels. He does make that one mechanic get on the speeder bike that he had kind of rigged, and when it starts to overheat, the mechanic goes to shut it down.
It is absolutely brutal moment for him.
And he's like, "Nope," and he overrides it and kills the guy. Right, just flat out kills him right there. And we don't really see that version. To get back to what you were talking about here, as Thrawn being a mentor to Eli Vanto, he is a tremendous mentor and teacher. He's guiding Eli along. He's developing Eli. He's building Eli into a really strong right-hand man. So if you
He
want to
does that with almost all of his underlings. Like in the novels at least, he seems to like legitimately
like
care
Pelion.
about.
Like Pelion is the same way. Gilead Pelion or whatever there is the same.
Which they also introduced him in the canon as well.
Yeah. So I want to go back to now the Alliances book that are out now. And now we get a younger version of Thrawn who's just coming through the academy. And we see early on where he has a very tender moment with a young girl who's just coming out of one of the... I don't want to give away too many spoilers, so I don't want to... You guys are aware of what's going on. I just don't want to...
Yeah, these books are definitely newer, so don't want to...
Right,
they're
and
good.
there's still one to come. But so there's
good.
there's a young girl who's really concerned about a phase of life that she's transferring through, and she doesn't know what she's going to do next. And he gets down on her level and he talks to her and he gives her some advice.
It's nuts. He like delivers the message of Star Wars to her. I'm like, this guy's a good guy. I'm like, this is a good guy.
Yeah,
It's insane.
Yes, exactly.
He's tenderhearted. And we also in these books we hear, and I put the quote in. All life is important. That's a quote in the book. All life is important. We don't see that in Empire.
No. That Thrawn would not have said that.
Heir to the Empire. We also don't see it when he makes the speeder bike guy blow up. We don't see it, right? So the version of Thrawn that
There's
we
a
see...
conversation to be had there, though.
I
There's some kind of personal tragedy that Thrawn will probably have to overcome, right? That we're not exactly privy to yet.
I don't want to go too far into it because I think we will, but I just think the way he develops the passage of time, his motive for joining the Empire, like just spending that much time, I think he could change, and like you kind of get warped and like he thinks he's doing this for the Ascendancy, and like that kind of thing. But whatever.
Yeah. We have again the Thrawn in these novels. To me, is very cerebral. Again, the artwork guides him in knowing people's motivations, their tendencies. Like they're gonna tend to follow these kind of patterns, and he's able to extrapolate that into combat situations to know that these people use lots of circles or they use lots of diagonal lines, and you'll see that then executed.
That's the kind of observations we would make. Lots of circles here. lots of lines.
Yeah, lots of circles. It must be World Between Worlds.
It must be.
No, I'm picking on Meg again. I can't help myself. But he's able to pick on those things and then extrapolate them into combat situations. So very, very aware of that. But he is absolutely blind, clueless when it comes to interpersonal and political kind of things going on under the under the covers, right? So he's being set up. And one of the really cool things about these new books is he's being set up to take a big political fall, because he doesn't know how to navigate those kind of situations. And to me, and I saw this on Twitter, somebody posted, he appears to be somewhat autistic because he cannot, he's completely blind to those kind of things. And I'm trying to remember
that's different than Heir to the Empire, right? I think the Thrawn in that trilogy is astutely aware of the political impacts of all the stuff he does, right? He's messing with the New Republic. He knows all that stuff going on. Where the canon one, definitely know that's like his biggest downfall is he just can't understand a lot of things, the Force and like politics. He just can't wrap his head around.
Now, and they come up and even talk about it, right? They're like, we need to protect him from this blind side that he has. There's a form of autism that's very similar to that. I can't remember the name of it. Maybe you guys will come up with it. Where they're high functioning, very, very high functioning, very cerebral, but when it comes to understanding things like somebody being joking, right? Somebody joking, they wouldn't. Asperger's.
Yeah.
Asperger's. That's it.
It's all autism now, anyway. But it's
right.
But
That's why I said it's a form of autism, he almost comes across as if he's got like Asperger's, right? He's highly intelligent. He can see things. He observes things. Very Sherlockian again, if that's a term. Very much like Sherlock Holmes.
And saying that's what they've compared. I think Cumberpatch has said that's what he kind of does Sherlock as having Asperger's, doesn't he? I think he said that in previous interviews. I'm not 100% on that, but
what was the quote? He said, I'm not a sociopath. I'm a psycho or no. He said I'm not a psychopath. I'm a sociopath with a highly functioning sociopath with
I don't remember. But
psychotic tendencies or
a hell of a
something.
quote.
Like it was wild. But it was a great description. Like, oh man, I wish I had that quote on hand. But is it the Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock Holmes? Is that the series?
Yeah, that's what yeah. That's how Cumberpatch act. Like he acts. I believe he said he acts him as if he has Asperger's.
Yes. Yeah.
So I love that aspect of him, and it's so evident. Again, we're still waiting on the third book of the series, but you get a Thrawn there that's very, there's Meg. It's right. It tends to affect sociability and understanding social cues, and that's Thrawn. Right. He just, a lot of times, he just doesn't understand, like, these people aren't your friends. They're not trying to help you. And he doesn't understand, like, the impact.
I don't know if it's that. It's more like he can't get why, because a lot of the family drama, the Game of Thrones-esque drama, it's not logical. You know, it's not, it goes against the Chiss's own interests, like, to have these selfish things. And he only sees the tactics of it, and those things aren't, like, tactically sound because they ultimately hurt the Ascendancy. Because I think like the quote at the beginning of Greater Good, the second novel, says like this book is for those who realize that those who fight I'm just gonna grab the quote because it's a great quote. Keep talking.
Okay, all right.
Well, I was gonna say, you know, with this new trilogy gives us a deep dive into the Ascendancy that we've never ever gotten before, and that's one of the most intriguing aspects of those books for me because.
It's for those who recognize that the greater good is seldom good for all. Because it's like these people fighting for their greater good, like the families. Like, it's not actually good for everybody. They're like, oh, you know, it's for the greater good of the Ascendancy. And he's like, that just doesn't make any sense to me.
It's like, it only affects, it only helps your family. Like, it doesn't, or it helps this family. It only helps the myth. It only helps the, and I'm blanking on the rest of the families. But, you know, that's why I said, you know, these books, if you wanted to, you could really create an Ascendancy Disney Plus show that is more political, like a political thriller, like House of Cards type of thing, with how Thrawn has written it, and it would be like, I would totally watch that. And I think it would interest a lot of people.
We talked about this on our Discord. Coop and I are like, we got to daydreaming about it one afternoon. It's like,
hey, appreciate that boy Steve and Star Wars Meg. They both got the right quote from Sherlock.
There you go. And I think Gray had it. Yeah.
And Gray. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But
chat's moving fast.
I would absolutely love to see something set in the Ascendancy, and to the point of these books, Thrawn has no interest in rising politically. Yeah. Like these promotions that he gets, he's absolutely not playing the game. He has no clue how to play that game. And he's climbing as a result of his success that the others can't even understand. Like they think he's getting lucky. They can't understand how he is so intuitive and how he makes these decisions that are always right but make no sense. So
well, he also does stuff prior to too. Like, you know how, like, have you guys ever seen Watchmen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where like the bad guy at the end, he talks about like he says, it's a good thing I already enacted my plan like 30 minutes ago.
Great moment. Yeah. Spoiler for comic book 40 years old.
Yeah, but again, like you're like it's a good thing like I already did it 30. Like Thrawn has a moment like moments like that where like I already did it.
I could just gush about
He's talking about it, but
Ozymandias is such a good villain. Whatever.
10-15 minutes ago.
Moving on.
Yeah, and so but it's interesting that he has no interest in politically rising, and compare that to Heir to the Empire, where he's like outpositioning other admirals, right? He's taking control, right? Yeah,
he knows what's going on. Like, they introduce him. That's one of the other big differences. He introduces himself as like a warlord, you know, and like that.
And he's also fallen into favor with Tarkin. That's another thing. Tarkin takes really interest in his career very early while he's still in the academy. And that probably has to do with the Emperor, too.
Yeah, they set that up really well in Clone Wars.
hey, watch this
Tarkin
guy.
and Vader not getting along. And so anybody that could cause Vader any kind of hardship would be somebody Tarkin would maybe get along with. But I'm interested because he goes into, during these books, he goes into the lesser space at one point because he needs some information. He finds a little technology while he's there and he brings it back, which leads to the interdictors, right? So eventually. But he wants that information to bring back to the Ascendancy. He has no interest in taking over any lesser space, of having any involvement in lesser space. He's not at all inclined towards lesser space. And for anybody that's not read, lesser space to the Chiss is
The galaxy.
It's
the
the own
galaxy.
galaxy.
Right, the Star Wars universe we all know and love.
Which personally, I love that. I love that they call it lesser space. Oh man, it's so elitist. I love it.
I love the explanation for what happened to the galaxy too. Like I was thinking, I was rereading the beginning of the first book in Ascendancy. So this isn't too much of a spoiler, but essentially like the lore behind why only like a third, or it's almost like a half of the galaxy you just can't go in, is because one point thousands of years ago there was like this chain of supernova explosions that just messed up and it sent like stuff moving super fast and just created this chain reaction. And so that's why all the hyperlanes are really hard to navigate. And I was just thinking, like, what if that was like something that happened during like the Sith War, like one of the old Sith Wars, like 4,000 years ago? Like that would be so cool.
That would be great.
If, like, that'd be cool.
Well, and
anyway,
it's why
Or the
a
Ricotta.
series done in the Ascendancy could be so good.
Yeah, but they live
because it's still Star Wars, but it's so much different than the universe we know. And it would involve maybe not guys with lightsabers, but people that are more Games of Thrones-ish, right? You've got these family houses, jockeying position, and things like that. It's
maybe
absolutely
it was
fascinating.
The
So it's been asked, and Meg asked a question about how will Thrawn be introduced in Mandalorian and Ahsoka. We need to get there.
that is a tough question.
But the question starts
It's a
with...
great
He's
question,
already
though.
been introduced. He's already been introduced in Mandalorian season 2.
Technically.
Yeah, technically. But
Why would she know? Why would she know? Why would she be looking for Thrawn if she doesn't know Thrawn's already out there?
Here we go, Trev.
Here we
Hold
go.
on. Put a pin in it.
Bitch only
Hold
has
on.
14 episodes. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, Trev, this is a continuing debate that Trev and I have. It's much like Trev's argument that there were only 14 episodes.
No.
of Bad Batch.
It's not much like that argument.
Yeah,
Just
It's
like
not
that.
much- You're just
We're
using that
convinced.
argument because you won that argument. That's why it's all you're. That's all
Well, you won it. What do you mean? We looked at what we saw and we said, "Oh, look, it's 16," and you said, "No."
No, I want. It's because Trev and I are continuing this debate about Thrawn, but we'll get there. I want to get there, but it starts with the Thrawn we see in the current novels, who is concerned about all life is important, no interest in political machinations. Right? He's not trying to climb the ladder; he's climbing it by success, not by plotting a career path. And as far as lesser space is concerned, he has one interest, and it's the Ascendancy. How do we get from that Thrawn to Rebels Thrawn? Let's start with that part. And I think Coop, you mentioned about something,
away.
right?
So you want my speculative answer or the real answer?
Yeah. Well, go for it. Either way, both.
All right. So the real answer is short. Retcon. But speculatively, it would be something has to happen in this next book, in the final book in this trilogy that would, oh gosh, I don't know. We got to see one thing. One thing I have to acknowledge is that the way that Zahn has written Thrawn in these new novels has made him more of a neutral type of character. But the Ascendancy novels have made him more of a hero, at least to the Ascendancy. And we don't know, like...
To be fair, though, that is when he's young. And you can change a lot of time in like 30 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But his what he's shown and the love that he's shown for the Ascendancy up to this point in these novels makes me think that that might be the direction that they go with, being that, one, I like that Zahn has kind of sort of rewritten the character in this way because it would allow Disney to keep the character around for a lot longer, because now you've got more of a neutral character that isn't really good or bad. You can kind of play with that a little bit. He's not he's not just evil for the sake of evil.
He's not good or bad relative to what we know as being good or bad.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, so he's serving the Chiss Ascendancy, and that's ultimately that's what his motives are. Everything is for them.
And that's
everything is for their benefit, right?
And that's what they have to like solidly confirm, because we haven't gotten anything. Like, I feel like, yes, his loyalties truly lie with the Ascendancy, without question. Like, if he had to choose between the Empire or the Ascendancy, he's going with the Ascendancy.
Even though he was
that's a huge difference from Heir to the Empire. Like, he was not that loyal to the Chiss. I don't even remember there being mentioned
in Heir to the Empire. You don't learn a lot about Chiss. It's in the
You got retcon.
It's in the Hand of Thrawn duology that comes out 6 years after the Heir to the Empire trilogy, like Spectre of the Past, Vision of the Future, where you learn about the Chiss. They have a clone of Thrawn. At the same time, the Empire has like a con man pretending he's Thrawn.
It's very confusing.
Well, the Empire Remnant has a con man pretending he's Thrawn.
It's I want to bring up about the life is important again, because there's a big shift, in my view, in any way, between where he is in these novels and where he is in Rebels. And there's a lady who wants to commit suicide. And not only does she want to commit suicide, but it's all her followers to follow her. So very much like a cult, right? Yeah. So go back to the Jim Jones era, when all of his followers committed suicide. Similar in that way, but she thinks that becoming one with the Force will allow her to heal their home world and all this. So there's a reason for her wanting to commit suicide. But Thrawn goes so far as putting her in a suspension chamber so she can't, because he wants to save her and her people. It's not that he has this. And where I see him in Rebels, he doesn't have that same concern for life. He doesn't want these people to kill themselves.
And so when does that take place? I
just think it's so much later that he's been
so maybe, like I said, when I said a tragedy occurs earlier on, like, remember, there's a reason he's exiled from the Chiss. Like, he's exiled from the Chiss.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So there's a reason.
But is he?
No, I thought it was like a fake out.
Exiled?
Yeah,
that's what
it was
I
like
thought.
a fake out.
Was it a fake out, or was there some kind of like?
They never really explained it.
I don't think
that's what I mean. They never really.
Yeah, there's no actual explanation. So it could be a ruse. It could be that this is one of his plans. Like, maybe he did something crazy that would have.
I wanted to talk about this.
Or something happens. Something happens before he goes to the Empire. Something happens.
I think it's just
like it could be a thing where, like, he knows the Ascendancy would never let him approve of him going into lesser space to form an alliance with the Empire, so he gets exiled by the Chiss intentionally so he can do that, because he knows that's the only way he's going to be able to do it.
On this point, I just think you can explain it, because I think the Thrawn in the novels that take place around Rebels is closer. Like, you can feel it similar. Like, those novels literally take place in between certain Rebels episodes. At least Treason does. And so I think, like, there's less of a disconnect there. But I feel like spending, 20 years with the fascist empire and, like, serving Palpatine directly, and he bonds with a new crew. Like, I feel like some of those things could change you. But I want to address this, because I don't think they will ignore them. Just only because if it was any other author, maybe. But it's Timothy Zahn. It's Timothy Zahn, and this guy, like, and people say save Star Wars all the time, like in a, I think, a excessive way. This man literally saved Star Wars.
I would say anyone over like I don't know how old Star Wars Meg is. I don't know, like, maybe the younger crowd doesn't know Thrawn that well, other than from Rebels, and maybe if they're reading the novels.
And it's not like,
but everyone like around my age or older who was into Star Wars knows who Thrawn is.
And in terms of the scale of a retcon, so far it's been a couple pages of a comic book, 6 pages of Ahsoka. Those are the 2 biggest ones. I don't think they can be like, oh yeah, those 6 novels, they didn't happen.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, it's not a complete, like, ignoring of the, like, they're just changing some details about.
Well, I want to address what Trev said, because it's pertinent, because there's a group of us who were alive when after Return of the Jedi. That was it. And we didn't really have Star Wars for a while. And Zahn wrote those novels. And you can read about it now, but we lived it. And when we lived it, there was nothing. Literally nothing.
Droids and Ewoks and the 2 Ewok movies.
Right. But Zahn wrote this novel. Yeah, Zahn wrote the novel, and
hey,
sold
Santa, that's blurgs. You got blurgs in there.
I know. Don't start me about blurgs. It showed Lucas that there was still consumption for Star Wars, and so it began the wheels rolling towards getting the prequels. You wouldn't have the prequels if not for Zahn. I mean, it's quite literal. So
weren't those books #1 bestsellers? Like I understand that's not even like
it was crazy. But here's the thing:
a year at a time.
Those of us who grew up with that Thrawn, many have not re-engaged. Right? They got mad because of what's happened in the Disney era. They refused to read the Disney novels. Many got turned off by Space Aladdin and stopped watching Rebels. And the only version of Thrawn that they know, and I see Josh Lucas, Den of Nerds, say it all the time, because I think Josh is largely disengaged with this content as well. I mean, he's for sure watched Rebels, but they don't know the Thrawn we're talking about from the new novels at all.
And it's still Zahn. That's the most important part. It's still Zahn writing.
It is Zahn, but how?
I think he's writing Thrawn to get to the heir to the Empire Thrawn, because if they're going to adapt it seems like they're going to adapt Heir to the Empire. It seems like it's Thrawn's going to come in.
It'll be a version. Yeah,
Thrawn's going to come in and see. Let's say Thrawn's going to come in and seize control.
You guys think?
Yes,
you guys think
he's going to come in and seize control of the Imperial remnant? Like he's going to do that?
No, we can get to that. But you guys think that Zahn will write another trilogy set in between the time in Rebels? Seeing now he's going to pump it out in the next 6 months. Because can we talk about how fast he wrote the Ascendancy trilogy? I have no idea. It's all coming out within a year. That's insane. That's nuts.
He might have story points for Thrawn's his character.
This guy.
This guy has Thrawn's whole life mapped out.
I just feel like Dave Filoni is going to consult with Thrawn with Zahn about at least the intentions of the characters, and I'm pretty sure he's seen or read or knows about what happens in this
they reference the
trilogy.
Book in Rebels.
Exactly.
It's not a mistake.
And if I can speculate a little bit,
let's do it. And
I'm going to spoil the end of Rebels. So, warning. Here I go. When Ezra and Thrawn are sent off into hyperspace
by the Purgles.
Reading the Treason novel, we know that
with the windows broken on the Star Destroyer. On the Chimera.
Oh my God.
we know that Thrawn's relationship with the Empire is fragile at that point. And so when he is sent off with the Purgle, in my opinion, his relationship with the Empire is done. And the Emperor it's over.
I concur.
Because the Emperor was basically like, "Yo, this is your last chance to redeem
yourself." You're not wrong there. But
his own faction.
But does anyone else know that?
But here's the thing:
outside of the Emperor.
Let me finish my point.
Sorry. Go ahead.
We gotta have the whole original trilogy happens. There's no Thrawn. We don't see Thrawn, right? So, similar to Heir to the Empire, he's off the board, right? In Heir to the Empire, he was just rising through the ranks of the Empire. So by the time the fall of the Empire, he's one of the highest ranking
Grand Admiral
Imperials left, right? This is a little different now because of what he did, and the effect that he had on the people under his service and his command, and when he interacted with in the Empire, he's got a certain group that would probably follow him at the end of Return of the Jedi. Like after the Empire is defeated after the Battle of Jakku, if Thrawn returns, they're going to be like, "Yo, I'll definitely follow this dude." That's the Picard effect, right? Like, and then he's also got. I feel like he's got because Aralani, and all of the Chiss that are loyal to him too. Like I feel like he can create a hybrid remnant army of Chiss and Imperials.
I don't know about that.
He's building the Star Destroyers because he knows that the Chiss need better ships.
And well,
The
not
ships
just
that
that,
they
he
have.
needs ships.
Yes,
That's true. That's
and
true.
he loves the Star Destroyers, and I feel that's my theory that he's building those to help the expansionary defense force fight the Grisk.
I don't know if so. The article that just came out on StarWars.com about Palpatine's contingency sort of reinforces something that I have been saying for a while, which is like Moff Gideon, that group of that faction, that warlord of that part of the Empire. They were meant to die at Jakku, but Ray Sloan subverted that, so that didn't happen. And so this is like the C-team chumps that got left around. They're loyal to the warlords through themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Thrawn, on the other hand, he gets purgled out with the 7th Fleet, which already you see in Rebels. All his troopers have his logo on their armor. That you don't see that a lot with other officers. And in Mandalorian, those HK-87 droids have his logo on them, not the Empire's. You know, I think that Thrawn and the 7th Fleet is its own faction. It's like what is it called in Legend Empire of the Hand? Like it's his own thing.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree with that point.
It's
And
his own thing.
that's where I'm saying that's his Imperial side, but I think he has Chiss that will also work with him. Yes, because remember he sent what's my name? Eli Vanto into the Ascendancy.
Maybe
and he's training as first officer. You know? Like it's possible we could see more Chiss.
I mean, at this moment in time, I'm inclined to disagree with you. But when I think about it, what else are they going to do with Thrawn's story? Because I imagine, right, he's going to be the quote unquote villain of the Ahsoka show. But what if she gets there? This is the twist I see coming. Or twist.
I'm hoping it's a red herring.
I don't think he'll be the villain.
I think he'll be introduced as it. But it's like, oh, me and Ezra are fighting this other threat because I'm doing this.
I agree with that.
Exactly. They're going to introduce the Grisk.
So,
the Grisk are going to be the main villain of the
because the Grisk are retconned Yuuzhan Vong, right?
We're getting grisky, guys. We're getting grisky.
So, but we're saying that. So Thrawn's up to the point.
Was it Star Wars Meg? I think Star Wars Meg put in the comments she'll riot if there's no Grisk. I'm with her on that. Like we better get the Grisk.
I think there'll be mention of the Grisk in the Thrawn Ezra show.
Well, hold on though. But let's take a step back though. Let's take a step back for a second. Because what if the reality of it is a little bit simpler, and it is more like a loose Heir to the Empire adaptation, and Thrawn is trying to reestablish order. Because obviously he's not going to be loyal to Palpatine anymore. Because the whole contingent, the whole dealio was he was, courting the Empire because they were the most powerful and they could have the potential to protect the Ascendancy. But Empire's not that powerful anymore, and nor is the New Republic.
Okay,
so he's going to do his own thing.
But hold on. What about the Empire did he like?
Let Trev get in.
It's the ships. It's their fleet.
I know he's making a fleet. I'm just saying we have to consider that they're not going to go.
Okay.
The books.
You guys got to let Trev in. He's tried so hard.
Anyway, so we have to figure is the Ezra Thrawn show going to be a lot of when they come back? So it's going to be during the Mandalorian timeline, or will it be will we get a little bit of flashback during the original trilogy? Thing. Do you think about that? So where does the Ezra Thrawn show start?
I feel like I
want to ask that.
Go ahead, Santa. No,
that's really good. I want to start with a couple of leading questions.
I'm about to jump on that one.
We got a fantastic theory from Coop about what's going on during this time period once they get purgled out, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a great question because. And Coop, your theory is good. I have my own theory. I'm curious, Trev. What do you think is going on with Ezra and Thrawn, and might that be what that series is about?
Yeah, I think at least some of the Ezra Thrawn series will be about the journey of them of what happens after the Purgles. A little bit of that, and maybe there'll be a Thrawn trilogy set during that time period as well. Like a Zahn Thrawn trilogy set during the.
I can see that.
Yeah,
it's during basically the original trilogy.
Yeah, it's set during the original trilogy, but about what Ezra and Thrawn are doing, and maybe Vanto as well.
And right? You know where they are? They are in the unknown regions.
The
in
unknown
Chiss space.
region.
In
Yeah, but they're
Chiss
okay. So they're in the
space.
unknown regions of space. So him and his whole fleet gets sent there by the Purgles. Does his whole fleet survive?
I think
No,
so, yeah.
So
I think
or
I
do
think
you think his
I
whole
think the
fleet
Chimera
survives?
I think the Chimera survives.
The Chimera survives, or but
Maybe an interdictor, maybe like a few ships, not the
I think
full
the Seventh Fleet is somewhat intact. So I think
I do too. So here's the deal, and I want to tie it into the Grisk because I think there's your motivation to come back.
I think it's too deep. I think it's too inside
You
baseball,
do,
guys.
but
Yeah.
I think that yeah,
Man, wait,
they've
time
been
out,
taking,
time out. The crate dragon is inside baseball. They gave us that in the first episode. Of Mandalorian season
No, but it's different, you know. I think it's
2. No,
Well,
bro.
I think it can
It's
tie
really
in
not.
really well. We go to we go to the
Tython is
Ascendancy.
inside baseball.
We
Yeah, but
see.
it's not. But it's the way they use the things, you
Look,
know.
guys,
Like Tython was.
I
What,
think
what had they been doing?
you guys. I'm gonna have to put you on timeout. I'm gonna have to put you on timeout. You guys, calm down.
I wanted, but I don't think it's happening.
I think we could very possibly see Thrawn and Ezra battling the Grisk in lesser space. We go to the Ascendancy, and we find out that the Grisk have been encroaching, and they need to take it on. Thrawn gets Ezra to side with him because they're saving people. And there's where you end up with Thrawn mentoring Ezra.
and also learning that Ezra can coordinate ship attacks the way.
George Sabayoth. That's
what-
no gosh.
Jedi
but Thrawn
General
already knows
Ezra
that
Bridger.
in Heir to the Empire. What'd you say there, Coop? Sorry.
Jedi General Ezra Bridger.
I think you guys. Dave Filoni is writing this show.
He's writing
Filoni.
Ahsoka. Is he writing Ezra Thrawn?
Well, I don't think, but Ezra Thrawn, like that as a show, is so like that's
What?
just rumor. We don't know that's a real thing, you know.
No, we do know that. Don't we know that's a real thing?
Not to my knowledge.
I'm pretty sure we know that's a real thing.
Yeah, I just think that show could very well cover the time where Ezra and Thrawn are gone. We get to fill that time, and I do think they're in lesser space in the Chiss Ascendancy.
That's not
where.
lesser space, and that's greater.
Oh yeah,
space.
I said that backwards. You're
It'll
right.
all be. I think you know, bringing up Tython and the Crate Dragon. I think it'll be exactly like that, where it's surface level mentions, but anyone watching can understand it. So I don't think you're going to go deep in detail, but I think these things will be referenced.
No. So the way I like.
Outside
They
threat.
wouldn't have the Grisk be the main villain in the show from the jump. That's where the red herring would be. Like the whole thing
Gotcha.
I think the Ahsoka show is going to be about them trying to find
Okay, I
Thrawn
agree
and
with
Ezra,
that.
and under the assumption that Thrawn
the
is being
bad guy.
positioned as the bad guy. Then
At
when
the
we
end,
finally
like, we
meet
gotta go do
Thrawn
this.
and Ezra,
Like, whoa.
like Ezra is working with Thrawn, and that's going to throw them completely off. They're going to be like, "Wait, what is going
Okay,
on?"
I'm
Like,
fully with you now. I
you
changed
know
my
what I'm saying? And then the big reveal will be the Grisk, but then that will be the setup for season 2. That's how I see it. Like,
Yeah,
it's
I'm
not
with
going to
you.
be like a
Or that
whole.
will be set up for like that's why Thrawn takes control of the Imperial Remnant. That's
Yes.
why Thrawn does all these things. And maybe in the meantime Ezra flip flops, right?
And
Yeah.
we have to remember too. In Treason, they set up the Grisk invading Imperial space. Like the Grisk were hijacking Imperial shipping lanes that were taking the
Dunium,
Yep.
the Death Star stuff.
the Dunium from the Death Star. Like that happened. Like they were already infiltrating. So he at least Zahn planted that seed and just like, hey, y'all can take this and run with it.
Dunium was
Yeah, I'm with you guys totally there. Where I
Thirsty.
think the Ahsoka novel is definitely searching for Thrawn, and here's where Trev and I have
Ahsoka show.
been battling, because I think that Thrawn and Ezra are still in the chaos. I still think they're in Chiss space, and she's looking for Thrawn because she thinks when she finds Thrawn, she'll find Ezra. And
So
I
do you think
that-
Morgan Elsabeth has been in contact with him though then?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thrawn?
You
Oh,
would
yeah.
have to. Yeah, right?
I mean, she has the
She's
7th
building
Fleet
stuff.
droids are there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has to have been in contact with Thrawn.
I love that line. That episode of Mando.
Yeah.
This is my
So-
favorite episode, but there's so much world building in the way Mando just looks around after Ahsoka says that line about how she used to be a fleet builder, and he's like, well, she's still going. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, there's a fleet out there somewhere. Then that's what that implies.
Yeah, they're out there. So I think that the Ahsoka show, it's implied the whole time that he's the enemy, and that she's trying to save Ezra. That's the context that we have when we leave Rebels. When they're purgled out, that's the context that we have, and we know no different. And at the end, when they meet Thrawn, that'll be your season finale.
Might I just add that this is nuts that we're talking about this. Like, this is a real thing that's happening. Like someone in the chat earlier, I wanted to mention this before I forget about it. I think it was Mark's Lego Films, I want to say is the username, if you're still here. He said when we were talking about Rebels, you have to mention the Thrawn theme. And I remember it was right before I went to Celebration in 2019. And I was like thinking about, like, because it was right before The Mandalorian came out. At that point, we only had that one image. And we had like a leaked set photo of 2 stormtroopers. And I was like, man, can you imagine if the villain of this show is Thrawn, and like you hear that music and you hear the voice, and like everyone would lose their minds. And then nothing came of that, and I forgot about it. And now here we are, and Thrawn is going to be in live action, and we're probably going to hear that damn music. I am
for sure
so excited. And it's crazy.
So the question, Meg asked the question earlier: how is Thrawn introduced in Ahsoka show? I think it's going to be as the perceived bad guy in the series finale. What do you think?
I imagine he has to be shown as not losing. Like, he's not going to lose to Ahsoka. Like, he wouldn't lose to Ahsoka. So, you know what I mean? Like, he'll lose because he doesn't see something the right way. That's how Thrawn loses, right? That's why Rook kills him, because he doesn't see that the Nogri are rebelling against the Empire. He doesn't realize that, right? So,
well,
go ahead.
And Meg brings it up, right? It's too watered. It doesn't follow books. What do you think the chances that they involve Zahn in writing Thrawn for these live action series?
I feel like they have to advise.
I think Thrawn will definitely be a consultant. Or not Thrawn. Thrawn will definitely be a consultant.
Yeah,
I mean,
writing.
He's
like writing it like Zahn,
like
Timothy Zahn, Zahn, Thrawn, whatever.
He's under contract with Disney. I don't see why. Like, Dave can go and consult with him at any point in time about the character, and I feel like he respects the character enough to do that.
Here's a little.
Or just like Dave only writes Ahsoka, right? I'm sure
it's the same.
He understands that.
Yeah, he understands how Zahn is like.
Well, and that's why I think that because he owns Ahsoka, she's his, and he determines what happens with her. I think he would have the same respect for Timothy Zahn, who owns Thrawn. It's just my opinion. I don't know the guys, so I don't know, but that's my feeling.
And I remember in Rebels, after it was the episode where we see Cham for I think it was the first time we see Cham in Rebels, but it was after Lords of the Sith had come out, and people were asking why there was they were asking Dave at like Celebration, like, why was there such a difference between Cham's depiction in Rebels and him in Lords of the Sith. And Dave said, because when we were writing the episode, the book wasn't even out. Like, we didn't even have access to it. He's like, and then he said, if I had access to the book, I would have definitely written the character more aligned with how he was portrayed in Lords of the Sith.
There's a 10-year gap there.
Yeah, and so it's like, I think he would totally respect Zahn in that regard and go, hey, what are you doing with this character? Like, I want to bring this character into this story. Like, how, like, what's going on? Let's brainstorm.
I'm sure he already has, Coop. Like, I'm sure this is probably,
I just can't see him not doing it.
These are probably
questions that happened like 4 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
I always love looking at the
because I'm under the impression that
I'm like, oh.
I mean, I feel like you know, the Ascendancy novels are informed a lot about what we're going to see in Ahsoka. I feel like Dave and Zahn have already been working together, and this trilogy is a result of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, Meg. So Anthony brings up another question that has come up many times. Is Thrawn like, and here's Namor. Namor is one that I hear.
It's Namor, Magneto, Doom. It's all the same. They're all right.
Namor, Magneto, Doom, and also
Clone Commander Doom?
The big purple dude. No,
Thanos.
Thanos.
He's not.
Right.
He's like Thanos a little bit because
big
he's
purple
smart like
dude.
that. But if you want to make a Marvel comparison, he's like Doctor Doom because Latveria, the
Yeah,
Chist,
just Ascendancy. Yeah.
Yeah.
and the same with Magneto, the mutants, Magneto, Namor, the Atlantic. Like it's all kind of similar characters where they're fighting for their people. They're fighting. They're fighting to advance their people, advance their.
I wanted to point out a fun little thing though. Yeah, the Lot Dodd, Jason, that killed me. That was funny. Lot Dodd, for those who don't know, is the Trade Federation senator. There's a fun little.
It's very
little
funny.
bit. But a little connection between Ahsoka and Thrawn already that was established in Legends is that so in the 90s, in like the beginning of Heir to the Empire, Thrawn uses a maneuver called the Marg Sable maneuver.
Yep.
And then like 20 years later in Clone Wars, she uses it in Ryloth and they retconned it to where Marg Sable is like a Tegrutan flower, and that's what Ahsoka named the maneuver, and then Thrawn used it later. And I was like, that's fun. Obviously that's no longer like part of the continuity, but I remember back in the day being like, oh, that's cool.
So-
They already have a little connection, Ahsoka and Thrawn. A Marg Sable maneuver. So deep, super nerdy, but
And
I love it.
Trav, you were making a point earlier about Thrawn and Ahsoka going head to head, and I just don't see that happening in the show. I just don't see because
Exactly.
Oh, what if Ezra
He's-
fights Ahsoka
that's
on behalf of Thrawn?
Thrawn is more than likely going to see Ahsoka coming. Like, there's no way he doesn't have because
that's what I'm saying, Coop. That's what
I
I'm
feel
saying.
like he's got spot. I mean, he's got to have one. I do think that they're going to be in the chaos for the majority of the Ahsoka show. And he's going to be, he's going to be, because where else would he go
I don't know.
I think
after
that's-
what happens in Rebels?
I think
He
he's
has
in the
nowhere
Rim.
else to go.
I think he'll be back in the
Well,
room.
he could be near
it depends
Batuu,
how long they're, let's say,
like
they're
right on the
marooned.
edge of Chiss space. Like,
I was
he
saying, what if
could
they're
be
what
out
if they're
there
marooned somewhere, Coop? What if they're marooned? Like, what if
That's also a possibility.
like they're
but
marooned
they-
on a planet? Like, all their ships don't work.
But
Nah,
the thing
but
is, they've had
Elspeth's
like
working for him.
what 8 years? They've had 8 years.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
since
Yeah.
Rebels until this point, because all right, what is it? 6 years after?
If Mandalorian season 2
Return of
takes
the
place
Jedi?
another year
No,
after,
this would
Mando
be-
takes
this
place 5 years after, right when
It'd be
right when Heir to
exactly.
the Empire is.
Yeah, but season
is
2 is
when-
a year later.
This would
Is
be.
it
So
A,
though?
you're talking
I think
about-
it's just a continuation. It's like the direct continuation.
this
It
would be
might not-
Okay,
10
so
or
it's like-
11 years after Rebels.
Yeah,
That's
so they've had plenty of time to get all that stuff sorted and get to the Ascendancy, and plus he can contact Arlani.
And plus, he's gone. So when does the end of Rebels take place? A year before
around a year
New
before
Hope.
New
A
Hope.
year before New Hope, right? A year.
Yeah, they've had plenty of time.
So I want to kind of get to the question that we kind of started with, and I saw X-Wing just made it. What version? So we talked a lot about the different types of Thrawn personality,
What's
where
Lars
he
doing?
may appear. But Lars Mikkelsen, what characteristics do you expect we might get from Lars Thrawn? Will he be a Sherlock? Will he be a chaotic neutral or to a positive?
It's D, all of the above.
An anti-hero kind of thing? Do you think he'll be Doctor Doom? What are your thoughts? Go ahead, Trev. We'll let you go
I think he'll be like if you can make a comparison to Marvel Comics, he'll be like Doctor Doom, but he'll also be like I said, what he was when he was the season 3 antagonist of Sherlock. When he was like, he'll be a super cerebral,
Or House of Cards, for that matter.
yeah. When he was the
Right.
Russian president in House of
Russian
Cards,
president.
right? Yeah, we brought that up in Santa's
Mhm.
live stage like a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was also in The Witcher on Netflix.
He was the
Yeah,
wizard.
He's the wizard,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I feel like that's like that might be how his portrayal of Thrawn will be.
yeah, like Lars plays, and same with his brother, plays cerebral villains. They play guys who are like
It's
when
the-
Mads
it's the
Mikkelsen's
voice.
playing Hannibal.
Yeah.
I
It's
can't
their
see
voice
why
and
like
their presence.
yeah, you know what I mean. It's the way they play characters, and it's very formidable, very formidable, right? So like I think it'll be great. I think it'll be Hannibal like. It'll be Charles Augustus Magnuson like. It'll be Doctor Doom like. Like it'll be Magneto
Don't get
like.
Coop started again next week.
What's that? I missed it. Like I was okay. I had to go to Lars' IMDb page. You know he's in a fanfic, a Star Wars fanfic.
Did you really?
Yeah, Shrouded Destiny, a Star Wars long tail fanfic. which is in post production right now.
So this came up earlier. We did talk about this, Brownsville. Thanks for being here. But we did kind of talk about this where the Purgle do bust out the windows.
Ezra's holding out the space. He's holding in the air.
The way that Leia should have in.
Well, that's what Leia did.
In Last Jedi.
Oh man.
You gotta watch the chat. Sometimes. Oh my goodness. So no, I think that that we may see Ahsoka go to battle with Thrawn only from a degree similar like she did with Din Djarin. Right? The assumption is you're my enemy because you took my friend. And what we don't know is that they've been working together now for 8 years. Thrawn and Ezra, or more.
Probably longer.
Long.
Probably more like 10 years. Probably like a decade or 12 years, maybe.
Yeah. So they've been working together for quite some time, and they've been trying to fight back the Grisk or any other threats that they've had. Like if maybe they're not in the chaos in the Ascendancy. They could be in the chaos, but not in the Ascendancy, and they're just having to try to stay alive. They've been doing that for a decade, and so I think that Ahsoka may come at Thrawn, but then at some point realize
Ezra will defend him. When Ezra defends Thrawn, she won't understand.
That's not how I don't see that. I think what's more Thrawn-like is for him to sit back, let them go through the chaos and encounter the Grisk and let them see the threat for themselves. So by the time they get to Thrawn and Ezra, one, they're not going to see Thrawn. They're going to be like, I can see them, fighting through like the Grisk, not knowing that that's what they were. Like, these are just combatants. These are people that they maybe believe are working for Thrawn.
But how Vader defends Palpatine, like against Luke? Don't you see Ezra doing the same thing to Ahsoka? Like it rhymes.
It'd be a great shot. Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, it rhymes.
Yeah,
like,
because he spent 10, 11 years with Thrawn and has actually gotten to know him.
I got chills just thinking about
he's got to see the Chiss version of the Ascendancy version of Thrawn and not the Imperial Thrawn.
Right.
And the bigger picture, right? If you're only seeing Rebels and Empire fight, like that's just one part of the galaxy.
Exactly.
That's not necessarily the whole thing. Like there's a way bigger threat, and Ezra would totally buy into all that. Ezra would totally, because all he's ever known is the Empire. That the Empire did, like prior to meeting Thrawn, prior to being with Thrawn for this decade, is that the Empire is the biggest threat to everything. But then he sees there's something that's way bigger. For example, the Grisk. Like, you know what I mean? And I think he would totally buy into helping Thrawn with that. Like, there's no doubt, because that's what Ezra is, for the greater good kind of thing. And
my hope is that the whole series takes place in the chaos for however long it goes.
I don't know if that.
I know it's unrealistic, but that's what I would like, because one of my gripes with Star Wars for a long time is the galaxy always feels so small. We're always going back to the same worlds, although we have been introduced to a lot of worlds, and a lot of worlds have been created. But in a lot of the novelizations or in the movies, the things that are accessed by the main, the casual fans, we go to the same locations too often.
So, do you think we can get to? Oh, and I keep seeing we're going to get Heir to the Empire in live action, friends. We're going to get Heir to the Empire. We're super excited. Heir to the Empire is coming. They're going to do it in the Mando-verse.
It's not going to be a direct page for page.
Are you going to get?
It's an adaptation. It's an adaptation.
Do you think we see Luke, Leia, Lando?
Is Thrawn going to be that same Thrawn?
See, no. I'm going to say no.
As Heir to the Empire? Oh, absolutely not. No.
Now, if it depends, it could depend. It could depend. Like if they're fighting the Grisk, I could see him being that brutal towards the Grisk. If they're fighting New Republic forces, I don't see him being that brutal. I just don't see it.
I can see it.
I don't see it, but I will be pleasantly surprised if that is the route that they take. But I would be. I
think Thrawn in live action will be amped back up compared to Thrawn in Rebels. So and that's our last canon showing of Thrawn is in Rebels. So that's our last canon showing, and I think Thrawn will be amped up from that.
Yeah. Hopefully, I hope they've designed some better looking warships than that were depicted in the comic book.
At the end of that comic book,
ooh, that was just like, really?
Little banana ship.
Like, I want to agree that we won't see the same type of Thrawn. We're not going to see somebody who wants to rule the Empire.
I don't think he's related to the Empire.
I think he'll be using the Empire to his own ends. Like that's so he's seizing control of the Imperial remnant.
I don't know. I think it's just different now. I think it's just his Seventh Fleet, and because I think the remnants of the Empire, that's like your Gideons and stuff, like the warlords, and then obviously you have the First Order doing a separate thing. I think Thrawn's his own thing. I don't think he associates.
But you know what? Like so, Heir to the Empire starts off with Thrawn. It starts off with all the warlords and Moffs fighting each other, right? That's what he references. That they're all the Moffs and warlords.
Yeah,
that are the big players in the Empire are fighting each other for power, for this, for that, and they're not.
Either way, I know, but I'm just saying that he's not going to be doing it for the Empire, like the whole Imperial remnant thing.
I'm not saying he's doing it for the Empire. I'm saying,
or you use the forces. Yes, okay.
So Thrawn will seize control of those remnants, Moff Gideon's fleets, Moff Gideon's resources, whatever other Moffs and warlords are running around using Empire resources. Thrawn will seize all of that, and he will take control of all that. So if Gideon's not under him now already, Gideon will be, or he'll be dead.
I don't think that Gideon is. I feel like Gideon is closer to First Order than he is to Imperial Remnant.
I agree.
Like I don't think he's a part of the First Order. I think he's trying to gain favor with the First Order. I think he knows of the existence of the First Order and the things that he's doing.
Will we get Admiral? What's her name? And
Ray Sloan? There's no way. Yeah. Unless they're going to go directly into First Order stuff, I don't see that because she's supposed to be heading up those efforts. But don't get me wrong, I would love to see Ray Sloan, but like I just don't see how that plays into this.
I would love to see, honestly. I'd love to see.
First Order for 30 years is another. We're 25 years away from.
Yeah,
from
but we're
but the First Order still exists.
It does exist, and they're supposed to be on Exegol, like.
Well, okay, so then they're on.
Well, no, that's different. Honestly,
no, that's the final order.
Yeah, that's
the first.
God, that's so confusing.
We go back to Aftermath, and we go into.
So where's the first? Never mind.
We go into Levi's favorite novels, get into Alphabet Squadron and all that. Yeah.
Gideon hasn't referred to anything as the First Order, has he? Gideon hasn't referred to anything.
That's what I'm saying.
He's made some references though.
He was one of the chumps who was meant to die at Jakku. He's like the C-team level kind of guys who are left over. Where like,
well, he's ISB.
I know, but the people who were meant to go into the unknown regions with Rax and Ray Sloan, that's the First Order, and they're like bushwhacking. Meanwhile, Palpatine is on like with the Sith. Like the Sith themselves are on Exegol, but the people who survive, like the elites who go and meet with the with the Eclipse in the unknown regions, like that's the First Order. Like she literally says those words. Ray Sloan says.
And so when does the First Order reemerge into the galaxy? Do we have that information?
About 20. Well, yes. Well, there's the secession.
Well, they're not. Look, in the Mandalorian, we still have Moffs.
Yeah, the Mandalorian is
their own fiefdoms, right?
Well, that's what I mean, right? So we have this, like, I think we have this, like, 10 to 15 to 20 year span. Because it's 30 years.
It's about 15 to 20 years before the First Order emerges as, like, a political entity.
Yeah, exactly, right? So that's what I'm saying. So we have this whole time, like,
these
15 years to play with.
Rim. Yeah,
the outer rim, right? Where Thrawn can seize control of all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then whatever happens, they have to fight. They do this. They fight the New Republic. They fight the Grisk, and then the First Order emerges after Thrawn's already gone, or
after he's gone. Something else. He's going back to the Ascendancy or whatever. Yeah, I think that's the case. At this point, when we see him come in during the Mando-verse or whatever you want to call that, the Filloni-verse, the Moffs are sort of positioning, jockeying against each other to gain their own fiefdoms, right? They want control of their own.
Carve out the Empire into their own little kingdom.
Exactly, and if they can take over more, so you've kind of got this Game of Thrones-ish kind of thing, right? You got different Moffs trying to out-jockey one another. And they're going to end up, Thrawn's going to come back and say, there's a bigger threat, you guys. And any time you see it in human history where you've got people divided, they unite when there's a common enemy. And we're going to end up with the Grisk. We're going to end up with Thrawn taking control of all of the Moffs to battle the Grisk, and that's going to be what eventually leads us to the First Order. That's my whole thought process around it, and that's not the same as we get in Heir to the Empire.
I think it's very. If you go that way, then that's very different than Heir to the Empire. I think the
Yeah.
only way you can claim this as a spiritual adaptation of Heir to the Empire is if Thrawn remains the villain the entire time. And
Yeah,
is
see, I don't think so.
Well,
and I think most of us here agree that he's probably not going to be.
Well,
the
I just
real
think
villain.
when I say adapt Heir to the Empire, so we do Heir to the Empire, but Thrawn doesn't die at the end.
Yes.
Like Ruka doesn't kill. Ruka tries to kill Thrawn, and maybe you think Thrawn is dead.
He's dead.
Yeah, Rook's
Yeah, he's
dead.
dead.
Rook is dead. Yeah. So that's
Died
out of the
in
question.
Well, no,
That's
but-
out of the picture now.
Well, anyway,
Second Rook, Rook 2.
Rook is the one that kills him in Heir to the Empire, though, right? So
Yeah.
So he kills him, and I think rather than Thrawn actually dying and them cloning him in the Thrawn duology, maybe we'll just have Thrawn sidelined by a Nogri, like very injured, where maybe you think he's dead, but he's not dead, and he comes back, and he's just not come back like the Emperor come back, but just like he's just sidelined, and he's healing up, and at that
I think
point,
Thrawn is dead after this. I don't think he can.
After what?
This era. I don't think he can exist.
Yeah, no. But I'm saying, when we do Heir to the Empire, that's like 2 years of storytelling. There's still another 13 years before First Order emerges.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think the time period between Return of the Jedi and this 30-year gap, was it 30 or 40 years?
Yeah,
It's 30 years between Return of the
Yeah,
Jedi
it's 40
and
years.
Force Awakens.
So this time period that they're building out, he's going to be around that time period for a long time.
I
Like he's not
disagree.
going to be a part of the sequels.
Yeah.
I
But
disagree.
he's-
I think it's more he is around within the first 10 years after Endor, and then he'll be gone. So there's a solid 20-year gap, and it makes sense to me
And
why
that-
no one would be talking about it, because it's like the side thing that happened, and it happened before the New Republic.
I think it'll be a
really
major
solidified.
event in the galaxy.
That and
Yeah,
that's that I
I
agree
think
with.
so
I mean,
too.
even 10 years is a long time. Like that's
Even 5 years is like 5
I
years.
think it's
Yeah.
got to be.
5
I
years
think it's
when
going to be
First Order
something that's
emerges.
pretty much contained to the rim, and that our heroes are preventing it from becoming a real galactic threat. Like it is potentially going to be. Oh, this is a big deal. But the way that this way the storytelling has been on Disney Plus so far, it has stuck to the outer rim in order to make it.
What if
contained.
it's
what
got
am I
to
doing
be.
then?
That's
Like-
but that's why I'm thinking it's got to
chaos
be
too.
in the outer rim in the chaos. Like this story
It's
has to take
contained.
place out there, like
Yeah.
away from the known regions of space, from the main saga.
But if the Grisk are going to be, because they're so like even their I think their Wikipedia page lists them as a reboot of the Yuzhan Vong.
I think is
Right?
weird because I don't think they're anything like that.
Because
Yeah, they're
okay,
very
but the
different.
Vong took over like the galaxy,
Yeah,
right? Like,
It was they were a threat. That's for sure.
yeah,
That's
like
for
they
certain.
took over the Vong took over the galaxy, even though they retconned it so the Death Stars were really to repel the Vong and all this kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
like it's so what happens? Like, do you think the Grisk will just be like a skirmish in the outer rim?
well, you
Like,
got to remember, like the Grisk are only a faction in the chaos, whereas the Yuzhan Vong were a warrior race from a different galaxy that died.
Yeah.
Like it's a whole. I feel like the scaling is a little bit different, and the way, like to me, I read the Grisk. The Grisk is comparable to the Ascendancy, so it's smaller than the Empire, but still powerful.
Okay.
But
Well,
like, it's their
and
technology
we
that's
don't really know how big the Grisk
I'm-
are.
I'm-
That's the
I'm-
thing, and because
yeah.
of how they
I don't know,
engage
we're getting,
in combat.
I think we're getting too Grisk.
Well, yeah, we got to be careful, and
Yeah.
we kind of got to get back on track a bit because we do have another Thrawn book coming out later in this year that I
do.
think will reveal a lot of this to us. And then I do think that we will end up with these Disney Plus series ending in a movie event of some sort where they all unite, and it
Kathy said,
very well could
one
be
whole
a big
primary
battle with
event.
the Grisk where we've got all these forces coming in, right? The Battle of Five Armies.
I think it's going to be.
And
against
I will
Thrawn.
say, I think that's why this last book is coming out in November. I think there are some connections to the Ahsoka show within this book. I think that's why it's coming out in the same year as, was it Greater Good?
Greater Good, yeah.
Yeah.
Greater Good came out a couple months ago.
And you're right there. The greater good harkens back to like a Spock line, like
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one.
Just getting caught up with the chat. You guys are awesome. Meg made a comment about Din Djarin being the new Jar Jar Binks.
We got to talk about the Mandalorian.
Right. There's a couple other questions. I kind of want to try to wrap it up. Dinner is being cooked at the moment, so Santa's getting hungrier.
I wanted to say that I feel like that second Thrawn novel, Alliances, is really underrated. The one with Vader and Anakin.
Oh yeah,
I think that book
was
is amazing,
great.
and people really don't. A lot of people don't like it, and I think it's great. I think it's one of the best ones. I love Vader in that book.
I really do think those novels are fantastic, and that folks should give them a chance. All these Thrawn books, all the new Zahn, Timothy Zahn Thrawn books are fantastic.
Treason is probably the weakest thus far, but still.
If you can't like deal with the audiobook versions, I know Mark tried it and he couldn't. Get it on Amazon. Get it on Kindle or buy yourself a paperback, whatever it is. They're really, really good. And it opens up a lot of understanding about what's going on in the Ascendancy. Coop and I have been fan dreaming of a series set out in the Ascendancy, very much a Game of Thrones kind of in space, Star Wars, Chiss, the whole mess.
I want to see Bakeith.
Oh man,
yes.
So
everybody,
there's a lot of that.
The whole Ascendancy.
and I've got to skip over a lot of these comments because these guys get going.
I've got to ask a question. So do you think that Thrawn had a better relationship with Vader or Anakin?
Vader.
I think he had. He didn't really. He only like. How much did he really even know Anakin? Like he ran into him and did something, but he was it?
I just can't get over.
He has way more. He has way more history with Vader.
Where he sees Vader, where Vader gets into the chair, of like there's piloting the Star Destroyer, and Thrawn like smiles a little bit. He's like, I just thought that our navigators were called Skywalkers, and he like stares and like laughs a little bit, and Vader's just like, like I love it so much.
Yeah. What about Cobb Vanth? You're not going to get us to do another hour of the show talking about Cobb Vanth, Meg.
Yeah,
I heard that he's going to be in the Rangers of the New Republic in the series.
Yeah.
I heard Book of Boba and I heard Rangers.
He'd be good. I mean, you don't want to waste Timothy Olyphant, so.
No. Sure. We definitely need more Timothy Olyphant. You guys, thank you so much for being here. I think it's been a lively, fun discussion. You got to break up Coop and Levi a little bit. They're going to the mat, but really great. No, it's really great, and there's a lot of things to wonder about.
I think we agreed more than we disagreed.
Yeah,
just, we couldn't get our points across.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of passion, and you guys, we've had a lot of fun talking about Thrawn. There's so much more to Thrawn. Timothy Zahn has really built out that character, and I think what the four of us share is how much we love the character and what Zahn has done with him, and what it could mean to the future of live action now that we have him and Ezra cast. Right.
Well, like I said, I think Timothy Zahn has Heir to the Empire trilogy still being part of Thrawn's canon, right? So it's that's what Thrawn gets to, like as per Timothy Zahn, like you know what I mean? Like this is like he's writing the books he's writing now. He's getting Thrawn to the point where he's that Thrawn.
I don't know.
Very well could be.
I don't know if I agree with that.
It could be, and I'm anxious to
I don't
see
think
how
I
it
agree with
plays
you. I
out.
disagree.
So there. So take that. And as Meg says, this is the way. We can disagree with one another, and we can poke fun at one another, and that's normally what nerdy fans of any franchise do.
Can't wait to watch Bad Batch on Friday.
We all pick on one another.
Man, that's going to be such a good episode.
And we have a lot of fun. We disagree vehemently about certain things, but it's not adversarial, except for Trev. No, I'm just kidding.
And Ducky Momo, where's that guy at? He needs to lose.
Yeah, Ducky Momo
Ducky is
is
great.
Killing us on our predictions on Friday mornings. I do definitely want to continue discussion about Thrawn. Guys, I'm excited about the future.
I hope we can talk about The Mandalorian at some point before season 3 comes out, whenever that will be. Or at least before Boba. Since that's what season, that's rumored to be the real season 3 or 2.5.
I mean, the production codes were season 3, so.
Exactly.
There you go. Meg came up with our first T-shirt design.
That's not a rumor, by the way. That's Ming-Na Wen said that.
Ming-Na Wen did say that.
Elves with benefits from Meg, and now we have T-shirt number 2 from Jason. This is the sleigh.
Oh, that's
bad bitch, Star Wars man. Bad bitch.
You guys, that's so funny. Look.
Part of my language. I'm a Santa show.
That's okay. We can.
Shout out to
I'm
Gio.
anxious to see how it unfolds. Right. We do know we're getting live action Thrawn. We know that Lars Mikkelson's going to be playing him. Lars has experience playing Sherlock.
Well, Lars not sure. I'm playing an antagonist in Sherlock. Yeah.
Well, okay. And
he plays very cerebral villains. Lars always plays very cerebral villains.
Yeah, and he has been the voice of Thrawn, so I'm very, very optimistic. I really hope that they've been consulting with Zahn, and maybe Trev's right. Maybe we will end up with an Heir to the Empire brought in, but we'll see.
I know this. It'll be good.
Yeah, any closing thoughts? We'll start Levi and we'll end with Trev. So, Levi, closing thoughts on...
Closing thoughts. You guys went on a whole Grisk tangent on the last half there, and I was like, I'm out. I can't do the Grisk. But, I love talking Thrawn. He's one of the, I think, the best characters in Star Wars. And I think the main point is that the version we will see, it won't ignore the books, but it might not fully embrace them. But I think it's going to be a nice meet in the middle, where, because the people creating this aren't ignorant of Heir to the Empire either. Likely the people working on this read this when they were kids,
Yeah.
And Filloni definitely knows about Heir to the Empire, and it's no secret that was a big deal. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a blend of everything we talked about today, with maybe a little bit of Grisk sprinkled in.
There you go. Coop.
Hey, go check out the Ascendancy trilogy. I think that is a must read, especially if you're going. This is a prediction. I'm not an insider. I don't have any inside knowledge, but I think that if you read the Ascendancy novel before Ahsoka show comes out, it will inform you greatly. That's my prediction. But definitely read it because it's a great read anyway. But yeah, that's all I'll say. That's my last thought. My closing thoughts.
Trev.
You want to say check out Gumbo too, or whatever?
Yeah. Oh, I didn't knock a plug. I'm sorry.
I didn't either.
Yeah, if you want to see my face more, you can go check me out on Certified Gumbo. I do Bad Batch reviews every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then we have another show, which is our flagship show, The Cookout, on Tuesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, also on the channel.
Yeah. Thank
all
you.
New nerds. All new nerds.
All new nerds. That's Levi, and we've got
Johnny and Dylan. I got you.
Johnny and Dylan. Levi, they do some fantastic content over there. So catch all new nerds. And Trev, closing thoughts.
I think Lars is going to do a really good job in live action. Because I have a lot of faith in how he's gonna portray Thrawn in live action, just based on his prior performances. And I think we're gonna get what we want from the character in his portrayal. I have very little doubt about that, and I have very little doubt that we're going to get a lot of what, as fans, that we've been wanting for 25 years. I think we're going to get a lot of that storyline. It might not be direct, but it will be essentially what we want. Like, you know what I mean? It'll be an adaptation of what we want, what fans have wanted for a really long time, and I'm very excited to see it. And I'm not affiliated with any YouTube channel, but I do a lot of I'm a mod for Den of Nerds and for
many Discords
and
and
for the
a part
main
of many
gang.
channels.
And I do a lot of other stuff. And I'm just I'm on the Discords a lot. You see me around.
Yeah.
You see my attitude. You see.
Trev's a great friend of the channel. I think you were one of my very first, if not the first, guest that we did a live stream together, and we talked about Thrawn. And so I couldn't do another Thrawn joke show.
I mean, I love Thrawn. Thrawn's my favorite Star Wars character. Like, there's very little like.
I really love him, and I think that if we could get what Coop and I are dreaming about, more people could get involved with this fantastic character that many people have not been exposed to, because let's face it, less people watch animated than watch live action, and less people read novels and comics than watch animated. So the number of people that have been exposed to Thrawn is much smaller of the fan as a whole, the fan base as a whole, and I'm super excited to see other fans get excited about Thrawn like we are. I really am. And you know, we've had some fantastic chat. Star Wars Meg, we've had Jason, we had X-Wing in here. Well, Mark and our normal crew have been here. You guys have been fantastic. Thank you for moderating the chat. You've been wonderful. And I've had a ton of fun tonight. And look forward to when we do get some Thrawn stuff, then we'll be able to get together and have weekly or regular kind of debriefs about those episodes. Looking forward to it.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you inviting us all on, man. Like it's great to talk about this stuff.
It's great fun.
Thank you so much. And Mark, who mods the mods? Santa a little bit, but not too much. So you guys, we do have our weekly predictions, and all of the gentlemen here, right? Trev and Coop and Levi, they've participated. Meg is a regular participator in
I was about to say, I'm not consistent.
I know, but Meg has got in the last two, and she did extremely well last week. We see if we can beat her this week. Ducky Momo is ahead. Jason was in for 1 week, and he landed last. And so Jason's hasn't predicted since. So
it's all about that custom one.
We have a lot of fun. And we look forward to doing this. We look forward to doing this Friday morning, going through the Bad Batch watch party and seeing how you're doing your predictions. The link to the predictions is in the description here. So you guys, if you'd like to participate, we'd love to have you. So go in there and check that out. Check our Discord out. And Jason, it still burns. I know. He brings it up from time to time on his live stream. He said, I came in last. I know.
Link to Discord in the chat.
Discord is pinned at the top of the chat. So thank you so much, Trev. Everybody, thank you so much. And you guys, take care. And until we see you next time, everybody, Merry Christmas, and may the Force be with you always. Take care.
Bye, guys. Have a great day.